Hello and welcome to the Redis Tech Talk, Make Kubernetes More Efficient. We appreciate your time today and look forward to a great discussion. Please use the Q&A tab to submit questions or type them into the chat. We also have a couple of polling questions to understand where each of you is on your Redis and Kubernetes journey. And we will answer all Q&A questions that are put in chat and in Q&A at the end of Talon Miller's presentation. And now I would like to introduce our speaker, Talon Miller, our Senior Technical Marketing Manager at Redis. And we have our first poll question for all of you to understand. First and foremost, what is your experience level with Redis? Some of you maybe have never used Redis before. Others of you are beginning on your journey. And then maybe some of you are intermediate or advanced users. So we will give everyone a moment to respond. And moving on to our second polling question. Which caching solution or solutions are you currently using in your organization? Some of you might be using Redis Enterprise or Redis Open Source, or maybe Amazon Elasticache or Google Cloud Memory Store. So feel free to let us know if you are leveraging any of these caching solutions, and some of you might not be leveraging a caching solution. We appreciate all of your participation. And our third question is, which of you are actually leveraging Kubernetes in your organization? Some of you might be using Kubernetes, others of you might not, and some of you might be thinking about using Kubernetes across your organization. So we'll give everyone a moment to respond. Thank you so much. And now, Talon, I will hand things over to you to finish introducing yourself and telling the audience a bit about you.
Awesome. Thanks, Janelle. I appreciate it. Hello and welcome, everybody. Thanks for joining today. I wanted to start off with just a personal note so that, I like to get off on a good foot, so to speak, so you can understand where I'm coming from in my background. Although I'm part of the Redis marketing organization, I am first and foremost a technical person. I always have been. I like to be kind of like the Swiss Army knife inside of Redis. I'm currently doing a lot of technical marketing for them. And a little bit about me before I go into some of my work history, which actually has to do a lot with data science, is I live in Salt Lake City, Utah. And this is my wife on the very, very bottom. And on the very right is one of my favorite places to ski. It's in Mineral Basin at Snowbird, which is only just about 20 minutes from my house. So hope some days, if I'm lucky enough, I can catch some skiing in the middle of the week. And then in my early career, I started at Oracle as a systems engineer and got my hands dirty with Oracle database. And then I was also there when Oracle Cloud got launched and it started to get more popular. So really interesting to see Oracle transform into what was going to be, it almost felt like if Oracle was going to be, out of the picture, right? Oracle was kind of dying, in my opinion, and people's opinion at Oracle as well. And Oracle Cloud came in, and it was kind of an interesting time to be there. And then I went to Domo, and this is kind of where my data science experience starts. Because while I was at Oracle, I was going to school in information systems, and I specialized in data science. And then I continued to specialize in data science outside of my coursework. And I got my first data science job at Domo on a professional services team implementing data science solutions. So I was on a team of, legit data scientists, many like yourselves who have PhDs and who are much smarter than I am. And I got to see some really cool things. And this was back when, they announced that data science was the sexiest job on earth, right? So it was super popular, a lot of attention, and I got to be in the middle of it. It was awesome. I got to see some really cool things. For example, I got to see one of the largest healthcare companies in the world. We implemented a model to help prevent turnover, for employee turnover or churn. And because of how big they are, and this is a great example for scale for data science, because of how big they were and because of how many employees they had, we were able to, with our model affect, less than 5% turnover, but it was in the billions of dollars of revenue that well, not revenue, but billions of dollars saved because of, just 5% less turnover. So pretty incredible scale in what data science can do. And this was, close to 10 years ago. And then now I'm here at Redis. I've been in the data management space for a long time. It's where I like to be. And I don't see myself leaving anytime soon. So hopefully data science will come back my way. But as of right now, data management and the data space is kind of where I'm at. So the agenda today. So it's going to be really simple, but I really want to make sense two different things for the data science community and the data space. So Redis and Kubernetes. And normally you wouldn't ever put them in a conversation together because, first of all, getting Redis open source, the free version of Redis, to work with Kubernetes is extremely difficult. It's a feat that few try to complete. But when getting them together and getting them to work together, it's really quite amazing. And as we know, and if you don't know Redis, it's the, the only data management system out there that uses RAM, right? So it processes transactions and operations a lot faster than a traditional database. And so we know that ChatGPT has been using it because it's a lot easier and a lot faster to serve features and also data queries and so forth through their app and through AI. So Redis is a to-go-to solution in industries across the world. Doesn't matter if it's healthcare or FinServe or e-commerce. If you need something in less than a second in regards to responsiveness, and whether that be, an application that a customer is actually using, or simply a microservice in the background that needs to be served better, Redis is the solution. So, and then Kubernetes. If you aren't super familiar with Kubernetes, Kubernetes is a container technology that allows us to deploy applications and infrastructure very fast. So I really want to kind of open the door to, okay, we're seeing this resurgence of AI. We're seeing lots of progression there. And how can we better take advantage of that? It might seem daunting to get started and using these technologies, but it really can be simple. And I'm going to show you how we make that more simple with our Redis Enterprise Operator for Kubernetes. We'll go into deployment options and then even go into a roadmap sneak peek. So with that, let's go ahead and get started. So, and hopefully you enjoy the GIFs that I made for this presentation. I thought it would be a lot better than just reading text. So hopefully you enjoy, and let me know if it was helpful for you. So building out Kubernetes, like I said, in your tech stack can be pretty complicated. Some technologies pair really well with it because of their easy integrations to allow a simple deployment. And others are quite difficult. Like I mentioned, Redis open source is extremely difficult to integrate with Kubernetes out of the box. In order to take advantage of the real-time capabilities of Redis, building Redis open source on Kubernetes requires advanced init scripts, firewall rules, and service discovery, and that's just the start. Even with this complex deployment, Redis open source on Kubernetes isn't perfect. Manual intervention is needed with Redis version upgrades, resizing, and resizing of existing cluster VMs, just to name a few of the challenges. So how do we address these challenges? Redis Enterprise, alongside the Redis Enterprise Operator, is the standardization solution for Redis on Kubernetes that is far more reliable, scalable, and enterprise supported. It was built not only to be resilient, but flexible enough to fit in with existing deployments of Redis open source. So let's talk about an operator. So an operator is, and we're developed to tackle the sophistication of stateful applications. And that can be included as, a stateful application can also be something like an AI model that needs to be, storing features, right? And feeding those into the model. The operator fills the gap between the capabilities and automation provided by Kubernetes and how Redis uses Kubernetes and the automation of tasks. So it's kind of like the middleman that makes this thing work. It's what we like to call an expert in a box based on our own experience running Redis at scale in Kubernetes. So Redis has created an operator that deploys and manages the lifecycle of the Redis Enterprise cluster. The Redis Enterprise operator is the fastest, most efficient way to deploy and maintain Redis in Kubernetes. So if you want to use Redis, which many in the data science community do, and you want to be able to containerize that technology, this really is the best and fastest way to use those technologies together. Without the Redis Enterprise operator, running Redis on Kubernetes can fail to react accurately to internal Redis edge cases or failure conditions. Also, Kubernetes orchestration runs outside of the Redis cluster deployment and could trigger failover events in split network scenarios, for example. The operator helps by splitting responsibilities between operations Kubernetes does well and what Redis Enterprise excels at. The operator allows Redis to maintain a unified deployment solution across many Kubernetes environments like GKE, AKS, Red Hat OpenShift, VMware Tanzu, EKS, and more. Providing seamless portability and portability to deploy, manage, and move applications to and from multi-cloud, hybrid cloud, on-prem, and so forth. Kubernetes and cloud-native environments require that storage volumes be network attached to the compute instances to guarantee data quality. Otherwise, using local storage could lead to data loss and pod failure. For example, Redis Enterprise uses network-attached storage for data durability. In this case, when a pod fails, Kubernetes launches another pod and automatically connects it to the storage device used by the failed pod. Redis Enterprise then instructs the Redis Enterprise database instances running on the newly created node to load the data from the network attached storage to guarantee durable setup, essentially giving us 5 nines of availability, which in the data science world, inside of the AI world, that kind of availability is unheard of. And being able to guarantee less than 30 seconds of downtime per month for your models and for serving features is pretty amazing. Redis Enterprise should also be recognized for its ability to efficiently use persistent storage, even when configured to write every change to the disk. Compared to a disk-based database that requires multiple interactions with a storage device for every read and write operation, Redis Enterprise uses a single IOPS for a write operation and 0 IOPS for a read operation, providing significant performance improvements in typical Kubernetes environments, making write requests up to 100 times faster and making read requests up to 500 times faster. So that's just a quick example of like the drastic change and upgrade of performance you can have from moving your data science models and feature storing from a MySQL or disk-based NoSQL database to something that's in RAM, in memory. Another interesting thing to note is that in a traditional Kubernetes deployment, usually one pod includes one service, and we found that this was highly inefficient. Redis Enterprise is exceptionally fast, and in most cases, it uses just a fraction of the CPU resources to deliver the requested throughput. Meaning, when running a Redis Enterprise cluster within multiple Redis Enterprise instances across multiple pods, then the Kubernetes network with its multiple vSwitches can quickly create a bottleneck. So Redis took a better approach, deploying multiple Redis Enterprise database instances on a single pod, allowing for better usage of hardware, resources, and so the pods such as CPU, memory, and network, while keeping the same level of isolation. So in the end, we can leverage Redis Enterprise for enterprise-grade operational controls for high availability, like I mentioned before, the 5 nines of availability of uptime, security, and seamless scale. And that's another huge thing is scale, right? And so with AI, obviously becoming bigger and bigger today, users and scalability is incredibly important, and not overwhelming the infrastructure behind your applications. Automatic, elastic scalability, allowing your infrastructure to scale with what you need, and also be able to scale down too, which is I think also pretty rare in the industry as well. Is if you do have, let's say, slow time where your application isn't being used as much as it was the previous week, it scales down with you too. So it really controls the cost as well. So, and finally, automate database provisioning, management, and maintenance, and lean in on self-imposed and regulatory compliance regulations and standards, built-in security controls, and encryption. So how does it work? The Redis Enterprise Operator supports two custom resource definitions: the Redis Enterprise Cluster, or REC, and Redis Enterprise Database, or REDB. The REC is an API that creates the Redis Enterprise Cluster, and the REDB is an API that creates the Redis Enterprise Databases. And first, the Redis Enterprise resource is read and validated by their operator for the cluster specification. So this might look complicated. I'll try to explain it for you. So the cluster stateful set, service rigor, and cluster admin secrets, Redis software and UI are created first. Then a Redis Enterprise custom resource is read and validated by the operator. This is where we enter in the fields in the YAML file. So if you're not super familiar with Kubernetes, the reason why Kubernetes and container technology is so amazing is you're able to stand up infrastructure with a single YAML file. It's just a couple lines of code. You say, I need this much amount of memory, this many nodes, and where, and it all stands up. So that, and also it can contain obviously other elements, which is why, if you want to load your application in different locations, it's super beneficial, super portable. So the database is created on the cluster, and the database access credentials are stored in the Kubernetes secret object. Then the service rigor discovers the new address and configures the Kubernetes service for the database. Lastly, an application workload uses the database secret and service for data access. So a little into the nitty-gritty there. So this is what the YAML file looks like, as I was alluding to earlier. If we have a YAML file with these fields, and then if you change the nodes from 3 to 5, the operator talks to the stateful sets and changes the number of replicas from 3 to 5. Once that happens, Kubernetes will take over and bootstrap new nodes one at a time, deploying pods as well. As each one gets stood up, the new nodes join the cluster and becomes available to Redis Enterprise primary nodes. I can't tell you how difficult this is to do with Redis open source. Like what I just described to you, it takes months and months of work, and not only that, but maintenance from teams to maintain them. It's incredible. So we'll accompany the Redis Enterprise cluster resource YAML file with the Redis database as well. This one it's nothing special, just establishing that we need 2 GB of memory, but more fields are able to be configured here as well to nail down the kind of deployment you need. So the operator discovers the resources, talks to the cluster REST API, and then it creates the database. The server talks to the API and discovers it. Then a Redis database service endpoint is created. And then we're good to go. This ultimately enables the ability to develop highly scalable microservices-based and Kubernetes orchestrated applications quickly and anywhere. So quickly, a little bit about the roadmap sneak peek going forward. We've recently released Redis on Flash for Kubernetes, and this is super important for the data science community because, as you know, it's very common to work with very large data sets with data science and AI use cases. So Redis on Flash is the ability to essentially store these bigger data sets, not in RAM, but in Flash to save up to 80% compared to using it on RAM. So there still is a really cost-efficient way to take advantage of the performance of Redis without having to put everything in RAM. And then something that's also really cool, if you are familiar with Active-Active, Active-Active is a deployment setup, essentially making sure that applications are readily available and have real-time responsiveness throughout multiple regions, right? So say you have a cluster of databases set up on the West Coast, a cluster of data sets set up on the East Coast, and maybe a cluster set up in Europe West. Active-Active essentially makes it so all the data is replicated to all of those clusters all at the same time, essentially giving consistency and also less than 1 second response time to every single customer, no matter where they are. So that has been in public preview for Kubernetes, which is pretty amazing. So the reason why I say it's amazing is because, as I described, setting up Active-Active, which is amazing, it can be very difficult to do manually. And so being able to do that in a YAML file with a couple lines of code is pretty incredible. It should be a huge time saver for our customers who want to set up Active-Active. So that's a little bit of a sneak peek into our roadmap. And also, I wanted to say that if you did want to try this out, if you wanted to set up Redis Enterprise in Kubernetes, I have a video on YouTube, and I call it a lightning demo because I think it's less than 10 minutes on how to set up Redis on GKE in Google Cloud. So go check it out if you want to start loading in some models or features onto something that has incredibly amount of operations per second performance, and you can see the difference for the things that you're doing personally and start testing it out. So, and with that, feel free to connect with me on LinkedIn. I do a lot of thought leadership in the data management space, stuff outside of Redis as well. So would love to connect with you there and share thoughts and so forth. So with that, that's my presentation, and I'd love to answer any questions that you may have in regards to Redis or in regards to Kubernetes or anything of the sort. So yeah, thank you.
Thank you, Talon, for that great presentation. And we are always more than welcome to have a chat with anyone who has follow-up questions or anything that they would like to learn further from Redis. So please do let us know if you would like to have a follow-up conversation with us. We have individuals from Redis all across the globe. So wherever you are, we are able to connect you to someone locally to have a conversation. So we appreciate everyone's time today. We do have other upcoming tech talks and workshops and webinars. So feel free to check out all of those at our redis.com website. For any of you in the Atlanta area, we are having a Redis Days Atlanta event on April 27th. And if you want to learn more, we are having a Redis Enterprise virtual workshop on April 26th and a Redis session management and caching workshop on May 11th and a Redis search applications workshop on May 18th. And those are all virtual programs. So wherever you are in the world, you will be able to attend. So we appreciate all of your time today and have a wonderful rest of the conference. And thanks again for an excellent presentation, Talon.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you, everybody.